Why does everything suddenly feel like too much? Not just the big things, the small things too. Answering a message, making dinner, one more thing on your to-do list, one small problem, one small disappointment. And suddenly it feels like your entire nervous system says, I can't do this anymore. If you've been feeling overwhelmed lately, emotionally exhausted, or like life somehow became harder than it used to be, this video is for you. Because what I eventually discovered was surprising. Life hadn't suddenly become harder. I had simply been carrying too much for too long. And once I understood that, everything started making a lot more sense. Hi, my name is Maliha. I'm still figuring a lot of this out myself. But on this channel, I share what I'm learning about stress, healing, emotional resilience, and creating a calmer life, while hopefully helping you feel a little less alone too. And stay with me, because the real reason everything suddenly felt like too much wasn't what I thought it was. Most people think overwhelm happens suddenly, but I don't think it does. I think it builds quietly until one day something small becomes the thing that finally breaks the surface. Looking back now, there wasn't one dramatic moment. Not at first. There were years of pressure, years of responsibility, years of trying to do everything right, years of proving myself, especially after being unemployed for 6 years. When I finally got a full-time job again, I felt grateful. But if I'm honest, I was also scared. Scared of losing it. Scared of failing. Scared of not being good enough. So I pushed harder, worked harder, taught harder, planned harder, tried harder. And for a long time, that looked like success. But looking back now, I see something different. Sometimes what looks like discipline is actually fear. Fear wearing a very productive outfit. And if you've been carrying pressure for years, your nervous system eventually starts paying the price. But the strange thing is, I didn't realize any of this at that time, because the next thing that happened felt completely normal. One of the most dangerous things about chronic stress is that it slowly becomes your normal. For years, I lived in a constant mental overdrive, always thinking, always planning, always anticipating problems, always preparing for what might go wrong. Even when I was resting, I wasn't really resting. Even when I was watching television, my brain was still working. Even when I was on vacation, part of me was still planning, still worrying, still carrying things. And because I was functioning, nobody noticed, including me. I thought I was coping. I thought I was managing. I thought I was doing what adults should do. But here's what I've learned. You can be highly functional and deeply exhausted at the same time. The fact that you're still coping doesn't mean you're okay. Sometimes it simply means you've become very good at surviving. And eventually your body starts to tell you long before it starts screaming. Our bodies usually whisper first. The problem is most of us learn to ignore the whispers. For me, it was migraines, fatigue, brain fog, back pain, feeling overwhelmed by things that never overwhelmed me before. And I kept pushing through because I thought that's what strong people do. Then came the pandemic, working from home, long video meetings, and one day during a meeting, something inside of me finally broke. My mind went blank. I couldn't think anymore. I couldn't speak properly. And when I finally spoke, frustration and criticism came pouring out. It didn't even feel like me. Not long after came the diagnosis: PTSD, depression, and eventually type 2 diabetes too. Looking back now, my body wasn't betraying me, it was protecting me. Because there comes a point when body says, if you won't stop, I will. But what surprised me most wasn't the collapse. It was what happened afterward. I thought healing meant becoming more disciplined, more strict, more productive, more controlled. Even after my diabetes diagnosis, my first reaction was more pressure, more rules, more discipline, more control. I thought if I just work harder, everything will become better. But something strange happened. The harder I pushed, the more stressed I became. And the more stressed I became, the harder everything felt. Eventually, I realized something. Healing wasn't asking me to push harder. Healing was asking me to stop fighting myself. Sometimes the reason everything feels too much isn't because life is too much. It's because you've been carrying life alone for too long. And healing often begins when you stop treating yourself like a problem that constantly needs fixing. And that's when I learned the lesson that changed everything. The moment I stopped constantly pushing myself, something unexpected happened. I gave myself permission to rest, not quit, but rest. I gave myself permission to be imperfect. I stopped expecting myself to perform at 100%. I started embracing something much more sustainable: consistency instead of intensity, compassion instead of criticism. Life stopped feeling quite so heavy all the time. The goal is not to become stronger so you can't carry more. The goal is to stop carrying things you were never meant to carry. And sometimes the most healing you can do is to put some of that weight down. And now I'm curious, what feels like too much in your life right now? Work, family responsibilities, your health, trying to be everything for everyone. Leave a comment below. I read every single one. And often the most healing things is realizing we are not alone. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this video, it's this: life probably didn't suddenly become harder. You may simply have been carrying too much for too long. So instead of asking yourself, how can I push harder? Maybe ask, what can I put down? Because healing doesn't begin when we become stronger. It begins when we become honest. Now that you've seen what happened when I stopped pushing myself harder and started listening what my body actually needed, you might be wondering how I stopped pushing myself and started living again. Click on this next video. It's the perfect next step to deepen your calm and healing. Because in that video, I share the experience that completely changed the way I think about time, success, family, and what it really means to live. Thank you so much for being here with me, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Bye.